opening speech.
Colleagues, distinguished guests, regulators and partners in this great European industry, a very warm welcome to you all. It is a genuine honour to stand before you today as President of Euromat, and I want to extend my sincere thanks to our partners here at Sigma for their superb work, to all our Euromat members for their unwavering support that makes this summit possible, and to DGA for their continued professionalism in providing Euromat Secretariat. Gatherings like this are vital. In the whirlwind of running a business, it is all too easy to get lost in the day-to-day. This is our chance to lift our heads, to connect, learn from one another, and see the bigger picture. Our aim is to create a forum where regulators, academics and industry leaders can tackle the great challenges shaping our future. From the relentless pace of the technological change, of the rise of omnichannel consumer and the ever-present threat of illegal gambling, this summit is about finding solutions and forging collaborations. I must thank all of our speakers for generously giving their time. A special word of thanks goes to Anders from the GREF for joining us to share the regulator's perspective. His presence is invaluable because it underscores the importance of a constructive dialogue that we wish to build on. And this brings me to a crucial point. There is a persistent narrative that our industry is fearful of regulation. Nothing could be further from the truth. Our industry operates under strict licensing conditions. We accept high tax burdens and invest enormous sums of money in compliance to ensure that we meet our obligations. We don't just accept regulation, we want it. It gives clarity, and done well, it provides a level playing field. What we are against is not regulation. We're against bad regulation, regulation that is ill-conceived, driven by headlines instead of evidence, and that ultimately fails to achieve its goals, often with significant unintended consequences. Good regulation requires clear, stable, and proportionate legislative frameworks that reward compliance, encourage investment, and provide consumers with an attractive, safe, and legal entertainment choices. This kind of effective regulation is built on four essential pillars. The first pillar is it must be clear and transparent. Regulatory measures must be unambiguous. Operators must know their obligations, and players must understand the rules. Vague laws create a fog of legal uncertainty, leading to uneven enforcement and stifling investment. Look at the cautionary tale of Italy's 2018 Dignity Decree. It imposed a blanket ban on gambling advertising, so sweeping and poorly defined that it caught even neutral informational content in its net. The wording was so unclear that it took the court some years to finally clarify which communications were permissible. The ambiguity does not just burden the legitimate businesses, it diverts precious enforcement resources away from the real threats, the illegal operators who advertise online with impunity. The second point is that regulation must be evidence-based. Policy must be grounded in credible data and through research not driven by moral panic or political expediency. When policy is based on emotion rather than evidence, it almost always fails. Consider the recent situation in the Netherlands. A significant tax hike on legal gambling was introduced, justified with the argument that it would curb problem gambling. But what was the real-world effect? It did not stop people from gambling, it simply made the legal regulated Dutch market less competitive and pushed a significant proportion of consumers towards unlicensed, offshore, illegal offerings where there are zero protections for the player. The result, gross gaming revenue plummeted, leaving the government with a multi-million euro hole in its budget policy. The policy weakened the legal market, empowered the black market, and ultimately left players less protected. That is the price of policy divorced from evidence. The third point is that regulation must be predictable and respect the proper process. For rules to have legitimacy, they must be developed transparently and in accordance with the law. It isn't about bureaucracy, it's about the fundamental principle of the rule of law. In the European context, one of the most critical processes is the Technical Regulation Information System, the TRIS system, or the TRIS notification. It is a cornerstone of the single market. Member states are legally required to notify the European Commission of draft laws that could impact trade and services. This is not an option or formality, it is a legal obligation. Yet we have seen this process ignored. In Croatia, the government adopted a new gambling act with a vast array of market-altering measures, from mandatory player identification to advertising bans without proper TRIS notification. This is a deliberate bypass of EU law that sets a deeply troubling precedent. Similarly, Spain used emergency COVID-19 procedures as a pretext to rush through some of the strictest advertising restrictions in Europe, deliberately avoiding both public consultations and the full EU scrutiny period. When governments short-circuit due process, they create legally unstable and ineffective policies. And the fourth pillar, perhaps the most important of all, is that regulation must be mindful of keeping its licensed businesses licensed rather than leaking customers to the illegal channels. This is the concept of channelization, and it should be a number one priority for every regulator. The simple, undeniable truth is this: the choice for a policymaker is not between gambling and no gambling, it is between regulated gambling and unregulated black market gambling. If legal offerings are made so unattractive or restrictive, consumers will not simply stop playing, they will migrate to the path of least resistance. The vast, predatory and completely unprotected illegal market, this leakage makes a mockery of the very goals of regulation. Unlicensed sites offer zero player protection, they pay zero taxes and are often linked to organised crime. We have a glaring real-world experiment proving this point right now in Germany. New, incredibly strict limits, including low monthly deposit caps and a high turnover tax, have caused the regulated market's channelization rate to collapse to 50%. Now, let's just let that sink in. This means that today, almost half of all online gamblers in Germany are playing on black market sites. This is a catastrophic failure of public policy. We see the same dynamic in Croatia, as explained before, or in Romania, where banning slot machines in smaller towns didn't stop gambling, it just stopped them from gambling in a safe, visible, regulated environment. This brings me to my most pressing existential threat we collectively face: the unchecked growth of illegal gambling. Across Europe, a dangerous paradox is unfolding. Regulators are relentlessly tightening the screws on legal licensed operators. We face more scrutiny and more restrictions than ever before. Meanwhile, the illegal sector, a vast, sophisticated digital underworld, is left to thrive largely unchallenged. This makes no sense. The legal businesses, the ones that pay billions of euros in taxes and employ hundreds of thousands of European citizens and who follow the rules, are being systematically weakened, and those who operate entirely outside of the law are the beneficiaries. When governments pile on disproportionate restrictions, they're not protecting consumers. They're strangling the legal market and heading a monopoly of unlicensed operators. Legal operators are cornered, while illegal platforms, free from every rule and every shred of social responsibility, are left to hoover up demand. The pattern is clear and repeating itself across the continent. The simple truth is, without a strong, competitive and commercially viable legal market, there is no consumer protection. It is a fiction. Licensed operators are accountable. We are visible. We are partners in creating a safe environment. When we are pushed out of the market, all that remains is the shadow world, untaxed, unregulated, and unsafe. IT tools like AI and IP blocking can be useful in protecting players and blocking access to illegal gambling sites. However, these tools require cross-border cooperation and technical expertise from enforcement bodies, which could lead to varying levels of protection. At the European level, we lack a specific framework against illegal gambling, but there are some solutions in place. The Digital Services Act mandates online platforms to remove any illegal content, reducing the promotion and access to illegal offerings online. Ultimately, the fight against illegal gambling starts when enhanced cooperation between regulators and the industry to create frameworks that benefits both players and businesses. The focus of regulators must shift. The illegal market must become the primary target. That means enough enforcement. It means cutting off advertising and payment channels that allow these illegal businesses to function. It means holding the platforms and intermediaries who enable them to account. So how do we build this better future? First, we must champion innovation. If the legal market is to remain genuinely alternative to the illegal one, we must be competitive, modern, and interesting for consumers. Our industry should be treated like any other part of the entertainment sector, yet too often we are prevented from adapting. Take payments, for example. The European Central Bank itself notes the clear and irreversible shift towards non-cash methods. But in many member states, our land-based sector is frozen in time by outdated restrictions on digital payments. There is not a tool for responsible gambling. This is a policy that undermines the legal offer. Players expect choice, and when they cannot find it in the regulated environment, they will look to the illegal one, where every payment option is available. Allowing cashless payments alongside cash is not only logical, but essential to ensure that our offer remains relevant. Second, we need a smarter, more balanced approach to social responsibility. It is a core business imperative, and we do take it very seriously, but we must also be honest about what works and what does not. Too often, measures such as mandatory player tracking and universal cards are promoted as silver bullets. In reality, they risk driving players away from the legal offering altogether. We must challenge the flawed assumption that more data collection automatically equals more protection. These measures conflict with the principle of data minimization that sits at the core of GDPR. Collecting vast amounts of sensitive data from millions of casual players, most of whom are not at risk, is not proportionate. Let us not forget the unique strength of our land-based model, the human aspect. We have trained staff on the ground who can spot signs of distress in a way no algorithm can. Instead of building a surveillance state in our venues, let's focus on proportionate, targeted interventions that help those who genuinely need it without infringing on the privacy of millions. Finally, and it is finally, I promise you, what are the prospects for the future? I stand here today more optimistic than ever. Euromat is thriving, our membership is growing, because in these uncertain times, the need to organise and collaborate has never been more important. The challenges we face are structural and cross-border, And they demand that we work together by fostering this powerful collaboration between industry leaders, regulators, and academics. We can and we will create a safe, more innovative, more sustainable environment for all. Our industry has a bright future. Let us meet that future with resilience and with purpose and with a united voice. Let's use our time together at this summit to forge the connections, share the ideas that will make the future a reality. Thank you very much.